things.
Okay. Recording. I don't know how to upload a link, so this will be first. Does everybody know Caroline?
Hi, Caroline.
Hi.
I follow her on Instagram, but we haven't met before.
Yeah, this is first time.
Okay, go ahead and introduce yourself really quick. I know you did that.
What?
I know you did it on the other call, but this is.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm Caroline. I live in Lidditz, Pennsylvania, which is in Lancaster County. And I am a foster care caseworker. I've been doing that for 3 years now. And I live with my husband. And yeah.
Thanks.
Yay, glad you're here.
Yeah.
Okay, so tonight I'm going to kind of go over a few things, and then you guys can ask questions if you come up with them and want to just type it in the box so that you don't forget it, the little chat box. But we'll go over all that at the end. I shouldn't take too long, so we'll have time to kind of talk through it a little bit. But I wanted to talk about, I know one of the biggest things was inviting organically. And building relationships is one of my favorite parts of this business. I have met so many people. I always joke with Alex. I'm like, oh, my Instagram friend told me today, because I talk to so many people that like Lindsay is a total random person. Lindsay and I have no connection other than Instagram, and yet she's a part of this coaching community, and her and I are great friends now. So and there's lots of people that aren't necessarily coaches or customers, but yet still have built a great relationship with them over Instagram. And so while I recommend starting with your warm market, I highly recommend starting with your warm market, eventually you move into your cold market. And it's good to start building that now, because as you meet people and talk to people, they'll start watching you and start seeing you doing what you're doing. And then by the time you're ready to invite to your cold market, they'll have already built that relationship with you and that trust. So how I find people in my cold market, I've already talked, most of you know, make your list of 100 people for your warm market, and how to branch out into your warm market. So think of everyone, people you went to camp with, people that Caroline knows Alex. A lot of people that I connect with are people that know Alex from Messiah, and then I've connected with them that way. So it doesn't have to even be somebody that you're I don't think Caroline and I have ever met in person, but I knew who she was. And there's lots of people that's how it is. You don't have to be friends with the person for them to be in your warm market. So think of anybody that you follow on Instagram, you're friends with on Facebook. Those are the people you want to start inviting. And these building relationships kind of apply to those people too, because you might have a connection to them in the sense of you can be hey, my husband went to school with you, but you need to still build that relationship because it's not you guys hung out all the time. So, but if you're building your cold market, and what I recommend you do a little of each of right now. So you're reaching out to your warm market, and you're also going to start building your cold market. So I find the best way for me, and there's lots of tips for this, so you can do it however you feel comfortable, however you kind of find your jam with. For me, I didn't like doing the hashtags because I always came up with Beachbody people for whatever reason. Even if the hashtag was not fitness related, the algorithm was constantly bringing me Beachbody people. And so that didn't work for me. So I started going to my favorite accounts that had nothing to do with Beachbody, just Letterfolk was one of my favorite ones. If you know those letter boards. But you can go to literally anything that you're interested in, a boutique or whatever. And the point is to go to something that you're going to connect to people who have a similar interest as you. So then you're going to go to their most recent picture, or maybe 2 pictures before, because if they just posted it, it might not have a lot of comments yet. But I go to their most recent or their second most recent picture and look at the comments. And then I click on those users and I look to see if there's somebody that I think I would connect with. So that's kind of how I have built my cold market. So I would do that and add between 3 and 10 people a day. And what I would do is find somebody through the comments on one of those pictures, and then look at their profile, maybe follow them, like a few pictures, comment on a picture if there's something genuine. So my biggest thing is that you need to do this in a genuine way. So if you don't have anything to say, you probably don't even need to follow them, because you know what I mean? It's not really, but I try not to force comments, because when I have, it was kind of it didn't really do anything for me. And I don't force messages either. So if I don't have a genuine thing to start a conversation about, I'm not going to be like, hey, cool dog. Not going to work for me. I have found the easiest way to build relationships is to follow people, like their posts so they know that you followed them, because how many times does somebody get lost in your notifications? You don't even see that they followed you. So show them that I'm following you and I want you to connect with me by doing that. And I don't usually message right off the bat unless I genuinely have something oh my gosh, where is that dress from? And see if they follow you back. And if they follow you back, well, just in general, I don't recommend scrolling through Instagram, getting lost in the scroll. However, I do recommend going through your stories during the day and responding to them, because that builds a relationship, and that's so easy to do, right? How often do you see something and you're like, oh my gosh, that's hilarious? Or it doesn't have to be something super deep or profound, but just as you're going through, if you think something in your mind, hey, Lindsay, if you think something that looks delicious, I'd love the recipe for that, ask them for it. If you think something's funny, tell them you think it's funny. If you like their makeup, tell them you like their makeup. It doesn't have to be anything super deep, but that's what I do to I have found that's the easiest way. So I follow them in that way, which I feel like I'm talking really fast. So if you need me to repeat anything, let me know. And then I build the relationship by basically following along with them and responding to their story in an organic way. So the conversation usually starts less often through a hey girl and more often through ha 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 ha, that's hysterical. Does that happen all the time? Or whatever. Just something organic. And so our conversation may be and usually once you start doing that, if after you do it a couple times, they usually follow you back and will start kind of doing the same thing with you. So that's how I've built a lot of my genuine relationships on Instagram, is we just to follow each other and respond to what's going on in each other's lives. And then eventually that relationship builds. So maybe I share something that's kind of vulnerable and that person responds to that. And then we start having an actual conversation, or it just happens naturally. So that takes a long time, which is why I'm telling you to start that now. You're not going to follow somebody and invite them the next day. Very rarely is that going to happen. And so it takes months sometimes to build these relationships, which sounds like, oh my gosh, how am I ever going to build a business if it's going to take months to build relationships? But that's why you're starting with your warm market and beginning to build your cold market now. Because by the time you're through your warm market, you're going to have built relationships with people that are in your cold market, if that makes sense. And I don't know that that's how everybody does it. That's how I've done it, and it's worked for me. Your warm market is a little bit easier to start a conversation, because it's hey, how's it been? I saw that you're doing nursing now. What floor do you work on? It's not weird to ask that of somebody that you've had a conversation with before. It's not weird to just dive into those conversations, and you can kind of invite off of those conversations sooner, because I'll tell you right now, you're going to know very quickly if someone is or isn't interested in talking to you. If they're not, lesson release. That's okay. Not everybody's going to be your best friend. Not everybody's going to want to reconnect. Don't force it, because it's not going to help you. And honestly, that's how MLMs get a bad rap, is people connect with other people in an annoying way. So if it doesn't naturally happen, don't force it. Just kind of let it ride out. And I've had people who I thought I was annoying when I connected with them, 3 months later, be like, hey, can I talk to you about your workout program? And I'm like, oh, I didn't invite you because I thought I was annoying you. So sometimes people aren't annoyed. but like generally speaking, if they're giving you one word answers, if they're not like engaging back with you, just kind of move on with your life. Because there are going to be people who are interested in talking to you. And they still might follow along with you and be interested in what you're doing. So now we're going to talk about moving over into, so that's kind of like how I reach out to people. And then those conversations build, right? So by responding to stories or a post you might see or they might see. And, you know, obviously like those conversations can turn into more of a conversation just by like asking questions. It just kind of happens naturally. And then you've got a conversation going back and forth. I think it was Julie who said that she likes to have 7 back and forths, like 7 messages before she invites. And I think that's a pretty good rule. I think that occasionally you might invite sooner, only if it's like really a natural thing, like they bring it up or something like that. And sometimes you have to wait longer. Sometimes you might see 7 back and forths and be like, it would be really awkward if I invited them right now. But the easiest way to invite somebody when you're like, I don't know how to transition into an invite right now. Like we're talking about the dress she wore to a wedding, and it's a really good conversation and she's pretty funny, but like, how do I invite her to my challenge group? So first of all, it's okay to let the conversation die off, like naturally, like it would any other conversation. If you were texting your friend or whatever, it just kind of ends and no big deal. It's okay to allow that to happen and wait to start another conversation. In fact, I recommend it. I wouldn't necessarily like invite just because you've gone back and forth with somebody a couple of times. I normally allow the conversation to like end naturally and then go back and invite them maybe then a couple days later. But the easiest way to do this without coming off in a bad way or whatever we're all afraid of, because we're all terrified of inviting, I know. Hey, I'm so sorry that I didn't bring this up sooner, but we are opening up new spots in our health and fitness accountability group next month, and I think you'd be a great addition. Is that something you'd be interested in? If not, no worries, just wanted to make sure I extended an invite to you. So you're not, first of all, you're saying, I'm sorry I didn't bring it up sooner, like as if like they're missing out on something. And you're saying, I think you would add something to our group, like this would be beneficial to you and you'd be beneficial to the group. And you're kind of leaving it so that you're letting them know, like, I just wanted to offer this to you as a favor to you. No worries if you're not interested in joining, like no pressure. And the biggest, like the key thing to that invite hi baby Zane. Is he sad? I'm sorry, I'm totally distracted by the baby. Oh my gosh, you're muted, Lindsay. I can't hear a word you're saying, but he's so cute. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. Okay, so the key thing about all of this, continue talking to them like a normal person after you invite them. If they say no to you, don't unfollow them. Don't stop talking to them. Don't act like it's really awkward, because it's not. They might be like, oh, that's really cool that you do that, but I'm not interested right now. Okay, great, no problem. Oh, I just saw that you don't have to continue talking to them like a normal person immediately after. Like, it's okay to just be like, all right, great, just wanted to give you an invite and move on for the night. But like the reason that, or the way that I have built relationships is that after I invite them and they say no to me, I keep messaging them for their stories. I keep reaching out to them. I keep building a relationship with them. And if they never become a customer of mine, if they never join my group, that's okay. I'm looking to build a relationship with them. And I can't tell you how many, like I said, like how many like Instagram friends that I enjoy talking with now that they've said no to me multiple times for whatever reason. And maybe someday they'll join me and maybe they won't. But either way, like it's just fun to connect with people and use social media in a positive way. And a lot of the times you are going to get customers out of that. So I think that was all I wanted to cover tonight. So feel free to ask any questions. Diaper change time. Hi, Emma. Nobody has any questions?
Okay, I have a question.
Okay.
At what point do you start tracking, like, because I know obviously you don't track everyone that you follow or everyone that you have an organic conversation with, but at what point do you start tracking the conversation with them so that you don't forget? Like, maybe they stop posting on their stories, and so you've gone back and forth a few times, but then you don't see their story post, so you forget about them, and then months later you're like, oh yeah, I had this conversation and I never invited them because I forgot about them. Do you know what I mean?
Yep. I start tracking when I send a message.
Any message at all, even if it's just like a love your dress, where'd you get it kind of thing?
Yep.
Okay.
So the first initial contact I track, and then I don't track again until I invite.
Okay.
Hey, little man. I'm sorry, I'm so distracted by Lindsay.
That's okay.
Yeah, so I do the initial contact, and then I don't track conversations in between. I don't track again until I invite, and then I track when I follow up. And sometimes I don't know. I'm honestly not super organized in my tracking. So like sometimes I will track if I follow up again, and sometimes I just kind of leave it as marked as a follow up and just know that I'm going to keep following up until they say yes. But there's probably a more organized way to do that. But yeah, so I track basically the initial contact, the initial invite, and then the follow up. And then if they tell me like, I really want to sign up next month, I will write the next month. Like if it's January, I'll write February so that I know they told me in February they were going to sign up. They're probably still not going to sign up necessarily, or not all of them will, but at least it gives a little more like, if I remember that they told me that, I can be like, hey girl, I know you were ready to sign up with this month, as opposed to like, just checking in again. I can be a little more like assertive in my follow-up.
Okay.
And then if I send them a link, I put like a little box and I check it if they get it.
Okay.
And then I track coach invites.
Okay.
From there. Sorry, that was extensive. But yes, I
No, that's what I wanted.
Initial contact.
Okay.
And I don't think you need to track in between, but I do write notes down. So like if it comes up that they're pregnant, or like I'll write their due date down, so that I know, okay, in you know, if they're due in March, then in April I'll reach out to them once it's been like 6 weeks.
How are you tracking? Like, you're writing it down on paper, or like?
So there's a couple ways to do it. There's lots of trainings. Everybody has like a different way of doing it. I have tried doing it online. Like there's Trello and Google Streak. And I've tried both of those and just couldn't, for whatever reason. They're great programs. I just didn't like it that much. So I went back to pen and paper.
Okay.
And that was helpful to me. But there are people who kind of combine those. Like there are people who do pen and paper for some parts of it and then move it to Trello when they like invite or whatever. But if you're somebody who works better on like the computer and using those kinds of programs, either Trello or Google Streak work good.
I use the Trello app. I love it.
You like Trello? I liked Trello better than Google Streak. Google Streak kind of gave me issues. Like me personally, it just like never seemed to load correctly. And
Trello has an app too. I tried using Trello, but I just wasn't consistent with it, and I've been way more consistent with a notebook and a pen than I ever was with Trello. Yeah, but Trello at least had the app too. So I don't know if Google Streak had the app because I never tried it, but
I think
Google Streak is daunting.
Huh?
Google Streak is daunting.
I agree, but some people love it. Google Streak, the reason Google Streak is nice, if you can wrap your head around it, it's nice because you can use it to like, you can keep all of your customers' emails in there, and then you can use it for like MailChimp and stuff like that. Like Google Streak is good for kind of like across the board using it for your business when it comes to your customers. Trello is like kind of easier because you literally just click and drag their name and move it over to the next column. So like you type their name under invited and then you just click it and drag it over to followed up, and that's really easy to do. I just was really bad at using it. And like Noelle said, I'm just much better about pen and paper. So but there are trainings. There's definitely trainings on Google Streak. I don't know if there's a training on Trello. It's pretty easy to figure out, but I could always like walk you through that too.
You tagged me in a training. I think her name was like Shannon or like
Colony, maybe?
It was in Live Free.
Could have been
Oh,
Shalini.
it was Shalini.
Yeah, and she knows one on Google Streak and Trello, and that's how I learned, and it was awesome.
Okay, I will tag you in that, Caroline.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions about inviting or conversations? Or I know, Liz, you had said scripting. Do you have any like specific questions about scripting?
Mine's more for posts than like individual people.
Okay. Does anybody have questions on the current topic? If not, then we will go to that.
I'm good.
Do you have like more scripts than I know like Sierra had like a template that I have, but I don't know if there's like any more scripts that you have access to.
I would go into both Beatnik and Live Free, and if you just type in script, there should be some documents that pop up. But a lot of it, like a lot of what I use is just from like being on calls like this and hearing somebody say one and then just kind of like taking notes on it and like tweaking it. But I would say if you can come up with, because the thing about scripts is I feel like it took me a while to start using scripts, and scripts are super beneficial, especially for like if you're posting, like say you post your workout on your story. So I like to post like a sequence of stories, because if somebody watches all 5 of my workout videos, I know they're interested in something. And maybe they're just watching for fun or whatever. But generally speaking, if you're consistently watching my story all the way through, you're interested in something that I'm doing. So I'm not going to annoy you by inviting you to do it.
Right.
Even if you tell me no, I'm not annoying you.
Right.
And so my favorite way to invite is to post something and then within 24 hours, because Instagram deletes it now.
I'm so mad about that. It's so awful.
They used to save who was watching your story, even if it was in like the archive, and now they delete it after 24 hours. So like pressure's on. So you have to invite within 24 hours.
Right.
But
can you like screenshot it or?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah. You can only fit like 10 names on a screenshot though.
True, right. So just keep scrolling.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you have like 40 screenshots, it's a little much.
Yeah.
But
all right, Miss Popular.
You will get there. But so I like to go to the last video and go to all of the viewers on like the last video, because that means they watched it all the way through. And maybe they didn't, and then they're just the unlucky person who happened to click on that last video, and they're still getting an invite from me. But and then I like to just go off of there, like message them from there. And that's a great time to have scripts, because I usually say something like, it depends on if we've talked before. So if we haven't talked before, then I say something along the lines of, hey, thanks so much for following along with me. I noticed that you have been, particularly my health and fitness journey. Really appreciate it. Whatever. Are you on a health and fitness journey as well? And that's helpful because it leads into an invite much easier. And I know that they're already interested in something I'm doing. So it's not like I'm messaging them randomly, cold message saying, are you on a health and fitness journey as well? Can everybody please look at Emma right now?
Yeah.
And so it's not like I'm like randomly messaging someone who has never looked at my profile before and saying that. I'm messaging someone who's following along with me. And so then they normally say like, well, not really. I'm trying to be. That's like the most common answer is like, I kind of want to be. And like perfect lead in. You can just be like, oh, well, what's your current routine? Like just kind of like try and start a conversation. And if they bite, then invite them to your accountability group.
Mm-hmm.
If I've never talked to them, or sorry, I already said that. If I have talked to them before, like we've already had a back and forth and I'm ready to invite them and they're watching my stories, I just straight up will be like, hey, notice you've been following along. Are you interested in learning more about our accountability group? Mm-hmm. And so that's my favorite way to invite and send messages. Like, honestly, I do the majority of my messaging off of my story followers. And just send to new people, and those are my new messages, and then send invites to people I've already talked to and send follow-ups to people I've already invited, because I can't tell you how many people tell me no or ghost me and never respond at all. Usually they just don't respond at all. That's like the new thing. People just don't respond. Mm-hmm. And that's how I do like my follow-ups, because they still keep watching. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that answered your question. I forget kind of what your question was.
No, that's helpful. I kind of forgot my question too.
Okay, so that's, you were asking about scripting, I think.
Yeah.
And I was saying that is when scripting is helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Scripting is harder to use when you're messaging someone kind of like a cold message, like starting a conversation. That's when it kind of needs to be a little more personal, because they haven't looked at your profile yet. If somebody's looking at my profile, if they're liking all my posts, if they're watching all my stories, I know they're interested in what I'm doing, and I don't need to put as much lure into my message. That sounds really bad, but like if somebody has never seen my profile before, I need to like I want to get them to give me the time of day.
Right.
So it needs to be more of a personal message.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that method.
Okay, we have 9 minutes left. Any other questions before we get to posts? Okay. Do you have a specific question about posts, Liz?
So I found on like Pinterest or something, sort of like a really cool layout of like you could post this on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, so on and so forth, so that you're not just posting like workout.
Yep.
But then they always say you should have a call to action every post or like something. But I feel like I don't do enough to post every day. I teach, I work out, I go to church.
Do you mean on your stories or on your like postings?
Posting, yeah.
So this is where personal development really helps a lot, because if you kind of feel like I don't really have anything interesting to share, and I have my hardest part about posting is pictures. Like I hate taking selfies all the time, and like I don't ever like spend enough time taking like it would honestly, what I need to do is just go out with Alex one day and have him take like a bunch of pictures so I have them like in my back pocket.
Yeah.
That's what like Kate Netton does that. Her and her husband like just go and take pictures, and she always has fabulous pictures. But so the picture doesn't have to relate to the caption, right? Like you just want to get somebody to stop and look at your picture. So it doesn't have to necessarily be like a picture of you doing something active or whatever. It could literally just be like a picture of you and Christopher, or a picture of your coffee cup and your Bible, like whatever. But if you don't feel like you have something specific to share, like specific to your life that day, or like something that happened that day or whatever, personal development really helps, because like it gives you topics to talk about. So whether that be about like overcoming a fear, or and you've been doing a really good job at this, so
I've been trying really hard this week.
you've been doing a really good job, so I wouldn't say that you like necessarily need pointers in that, but
it takes me like 2 hours. Like it takes me way too long. Like
okay.
I'm not doing anything else.
Okay. So if it's taking you that long, my tip would be to like walk away from it for a little bit. Like it should not take you that long to write it. So if you're sitting there and you're just like completely at a block, like just walk away from it for a little while. And if you haven't done PD that day, do it, because that kind of helps me. It just gives you something, like fires you up. So like, yeah, whether that be about like whatever you're reading. What are you reading right now? Pressure's On. Are you reading?
Girl, Wash Your Face.
Okay, so Girl Wash Your Face should give you a lot to go off of.
Yeah. I love her.
So you can just go off, like, I know a lot of her stuff is about like
lies that you tell yourself.
Yeah. So those are great posts. People love those posts. They eat them up. So you can just like a quote from that book and then go off on it about like, it doesn't have to be from that day, it could be like something from 5 years ago. But just kind of share how like that relates to you.
Okay.
So yeah, it doesn't always have to be, I don't know. I'm not as much of a believer in the like call to action every single post every single day. Like, I think it's okay to just share a post with like a funny caption or a meaningful caption, but not necessarily like a long paragraph. Like I like to write, so I do write long captions a lot, but I think sometimes it is okay to just like tonight my caption was just pretty short, simple, like this is your
Thursday. So cute.
Little Carson. But so I think it's okay to not always be like, do you want to join me? But a call to action also doesn't have to be, do you want to join me? A call to action can be, I posted a couple days ago and my call to action was, if you have something that you've been afraid to do. It wasn't necessarily about joining me. It was encouraging people, like, if you have something that you've been afraid to do, I challenge you to go try to do that. You know what I mean? Like, so the call to action doesn't have to necessarily be like, drop your favorite emoji if you want to join my accountability group. And I totally use that. So I'm not saying don't do that. I'm not like making fun of that. But I'm saying it doesn't have to be that every time. It can be just encouraging people in something. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a believer that you like should have a balanced social media. So it's okay to have some of your posts just be about you and your life. Like, your friends and family are following you because they're following you. So it's okay and even people who aren't your friends and family, like even those people that want to follow along with you want to follow along with your life too. So it's okay for sometimes it to just be like, yeah, lately I've been a little bit too much about just my life and not about coaching. So I'm trying to work that back, and I've totally been like falling off the wagon with that. But yeah.
But then you attract the kind of people that are like you. Because I feel like I would be more prone to follow someone like you than like other people who only post like fitness things.
Yeah, and post it in your style too, like your words, your lingo. Like I use a lot of sarcasm in my posts, or like say funny different things like throughout my serious messages. Like that's like how I talk in real life, so that's how I talk in my posts. So yeah, don't feel like if you follow, because there are very successful coaches who post things that I would never post. Like, and that doesn't mean that like we can't both be successful. We just share different things and we're different people. So and like you said, like you people are the people I wanted to be working with, and here we are. You know what I mean? Like you guys were like you're my target audience. Like, you're who I want to be talking to and want to be working with. And that's who you want on your team, because it's going to be hard to work with somebody if you guys don't like vibe. So we have less than a minute.
Can I show you guys what I got in the mail today?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Woo,
I
woo.
got for Success Club.
So official.
Nice.
So
Okay,
exciting. And my,
everybody's going to get that tank top.
yeah. And my cutting board is on its way from Team Cup month or whatever.
Mine too.
I'm so excited.
Ooh, that's cool.
David was like, "What are all these things that you're ordering from Beachbody?" And I was like, nothing. They're free."
Yeah. Going for that Beachbody-opoly.
Yes.
That's like the most bizarre one, but I do want the hoodie.
I love the hoodie.
Yes.
Beachbody-opoly?
Yeah, that's like their
No.
success. It's like,
I
yeah,
need that.
it's Beachbody Monopoly.
What?
Yeah, Success Club. Is it 3 months or 6 months?
I think that's 3. I think it's 3, and then this hoodie is 6, isn't it?
Ladies, I'm gonna have it next month. Woo, woo.
Yeah.
Everybody come to my house for some Monopoly.
Play.
I could be wrong, but I think that's what it is. I don't remember for sure.
That's hilarious.
Oh my gosh. Okay, ladies,
Can we get a picture?
go quick, quick, quick.
Everyone smile. Where's my camera? Okay, we're good. I wasn't clicking the right button, but we're good. That was a terrible picture.
Oh
It
no, little man, what's wrong? What's wrong? It's a rough day. All right, ladies, have a fabulous night.
Thanks, Callie.
You too.
Good night, guys. Thank you, Callie.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.